$3.2 trillion. That's trillion with a T. A luxury jet casually gifted to the US government. Sanctions lifted like a dinner party favor, and Donald Trump grinning next to Mohammed bin Salman, calling him an incredible man just months after the CIA pinned MBS for the murder of a journalist. Donald Trump's Middle East tour looked less like diplomacy and more like a deleted scene from Crazy Rich Americans. The palace guards, the billion-dollar promises, the oil-drenched photo ops. It's all here, and somehow, it still feels like a parody. So what exactly did Trump trade to make this happen? And why does it feel like a $3.2 trillion IOU wrapped in a gold-plated PR stunt? Trump's international visit was supposed to be the crown jewel of Trump's post-presidency glow-up, a foreign policy masterstroke, a MAGA win so massive it needed its own airport terminal. But behind the pomp, the palms, and the fighter jet escort into Riyadh, the numbers, they don't add up. The contracts are vague, the timelines are wishful, and the ethics already under investigation. So what went wrong? From AI pipe dreams to oil dependency roulette, here's how Trump's $3.2 trillion Gulf flex turned into his most awkward and possibly most inflated foreign affair. It all started with a number. Trump wanted $1 trillion, because of course he did. And Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he laughed, then offered $600 billion instead, which, to be clear, still makes it the biggest arms deal in US history, and somehow not even the sketchiest part of this deal. There's no denying that it's a geopolitical jackpot. $142 billion for advanced missile systems, warships, and defense upgrades from Lockheed Martin and L3 Harris. Another $100 billion poured into US Saudi tech pipelines, and $5.8 billion for IV fluid manufacturing, including a new factory in Michigan. Because apparently, nothing screams national security like electrolyte bags in the Midwest. The pitch? Jobs, growth, American prosperity. Trump called it a massive win for the working class. And by working class, he meant weapons contractors and anyone with stock in Raytheon. But here's the thing. Critics say most of the numbers are vaporware. There's no signed master contract, no delivery schedule, no enforcement clause, just a memorandum of understanding and a very expensive handshake. Even conservative think tanks raised eyebrows. Is this real or just gold-plated MAGA merch? But if the $600 billion defense package was a military-themed fever dream, the tech deals were straight-up Silicon mirage. Saudi Arabia says it wants to be the next Silicon Valley, just with more oil, more surveillance, and fewer labor laws. Datavol, a Saudi-backed company, promised to build $20 billion worth of AI data centers on US soil. Where exactly? Unclear. When? Even fuzzier. Then things take a turn when you also find out that Google, Oracle, and AMD all reportedly signed onto an $80 billion consortium. What were they signing? Great question, because even their own executives sounded like they skimmed the memo and shrugged. Publicly, it was pitched as an AI and energy innovation partnership. Privately, sources say it was closer to, we don't want to miss out if this actually turns into something real. Even OpenAI's Sam Altman was in Riyadh, nodding along with MBS like he was at a very expensive TED Talk in the desert. The problem boils down to the fact that Saudi Arabia's entire tech vision hinges on Western buy-in and oil-backed liquidity, but the actual structure of these deals is mushy at best, and at worst, just venture capital cosplay with royal branding. And yet, this was the easy part, because at this point, the deals were already dizzying. But just when you thought it couldn't get more absurd, Qatar wheeled out a $400 million luxury jet as a gift to the United States for diplomacy, and totally not, as some critics suggest, for Donald Trump's future presidential library/golf lounge/ego shrine. The aircraft, custom-fitted, gold accents, imported leather, more square footage than a Manhattan loft, basically a flying penthouse with a foreign policy payload. Ethics watchdogs immediately sounded the alarm, wary that Qatar might ask for something in return. Trump shrugged it off with his usual playbook, but behind the deflection, the optics were brutal. A Gulf state gifting Trump a flying fortress while simultaneously negotiating over $1.4 trillion in deals? Let's just say the timeline didn't exactly scream coincidence. And remember, this is the same Trump who refused to put assets in a blind trust, and whose son-in-law, Jared Kushner, secured a $2 billion check from the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund post-presidency. So yeah, this wasn't just a goodwill gesture, it was a first-class ethical migraine, cruising at 35,000 feet. Now let's move to something more concrete, or at least the idea of it. Trump's team proudly announced a $2 billion investment from US firms Bechtel and Jacobs to help build King Salman International Airport in Riyadh. PR-wise, it sounded impressive. A mega hub, tens of millions of passengers, global connections. In reality, this was just another project that's been announced, re-announced, paused, and recycled more times than a Trump casino pitch. The Saudi government called it a gateway to the future. Skeptics? More like a press release release with baggage claim. It's giving big Trump Tower Moscow energy, except this time, the scaffolding's in the desert, and the odds of it materializing are hovering somewhere between slim and LOL. The playbook is familiar. Float a shiny, oversized infrastructure dream, slap some American contractor names on it, hope nobody reads the fine print or notices that nothing ever gets built. But even this wasn't the most transactional moment in the deal rollout. By now, Trump and MBS had traded more favors than a country club wedding planner. But the next move, it was next level obvious. There was no big announcement, just a quiet favor for his pal MBS. And almost immediately, whispers started flying about a potential Trump Tower in Damascus. Subtle, not even a little. Oil interests were suddenly back on the table. US firms given a wink and a green light. And American media left blinking in stunned confusion like, wait, did we just greenlight beachfront condos in a war zone? Meanwhile, that little matter of Jamal Khashoggi's assassination brushed off like a bad Yelp review. This is the same Khashoggi the CIA concluded was murdered on orders from MBS. Trump's take? He's an incredible man. Of course he is. Ethics watchdogs were fuming. Diplomats were panicking. And Trump probably sketching tower floor plans on a Mar-a-Lago napkin. Because in this administration, real estate always finds a way. But while you'll think that was it, Trump was also pushing a different kind of landmark: Middle East peace. And by peace, we mean pressure Saudi Arabia into recognizing Israel for headlines. His pitch? Join the Abraham Accords. Normalize ties. Cement your legacy. Cue the Nobel Prize whisper campaign. But reality had other plans. Because just as MBS was warming up to the idea, Gaza exploded into war. Suddenly, the ribbon cutting for Gulf-Israeli diplomacy turned into a PR implosion. Saudi officials ghosted meetings. MBS retreated from the cameras. And the peace deal? Filed under "Not today, Donnie." Still, Trump did what Trump does best. Took credit anyway. Called it a historic shift in the region and suggested everyone else just didn't understand the art of the deal. Critics were not so impressed. But in Trump's world, reality is negotiable. And if the optics look good enough on Fox News, who cares what's actually happening in Gaza? By now, Trump had everything he needed. Photos with MBS, a parade of dollar signs, and a press conference where he claimed victory before a single dollar had changed hands. Classic move. The truth? Most of the deals are spread out over 4, 5, even 10 years. Timelines are vague. But hey, he said it was happening. So that's basically the same as doing it, right? Reminder, in 2017, Trump signed a splashy $450 billion Saudi agreement during his first term. Over 70% of those deals never materialized. Some were canceled. Some were quietly reclassified. Most were just forgotten. This one? Possibly even more fictional. It's like a Marvel post-credits scene for a movie that might never get made. But as long as there's a podium and a few American flags flapping in the wind, Trump's gonna call it a win. Delivery dates? That's for future administrations to worry about. Look, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't rate foreign policy, but if it did, this deal would be sitting somewhere around 33% and dropping. Even the International Monetary Fund is raising eyebrows. They warned that Saudi Arabia needs oil to hit $96 a barrel just to fund these promises. Right now, it's floating around $65, meaning these deals are basically built on vibes and wishful barrels. And online, let's just say the memes were faster than the F-15 escort that flew Trump into Riyadh. One post compared the visit to a royal wedding with less sincerity and more weapons. Another called it America's most expensive reality show cameo. And Twitter, X, was flooded with side-by-sides of Trump holding an orb in 2017 versus Trump grinning next to MBS in 2025. Same vibe, new outfit, no accountability. If all this feels familiar, it should, because we've seen this show before. Same star, same plot, slightly shinier graphics. Despite the shaky math, the oil price problem, and the $400 million jet currently under ethics investigation, Trump is still calling this the most historic economic agreement of all time. And just when you thought it couldn't get more surreal, Netflix greenlights a second season of With Love, MAGA, starring Trump, MBS, and a rotating cast of lobbyists and legacy builders. But unlike most shows, this one doesn't come with a script, just a mountain of money, a few backroom deals, and a camera-ready smile. So what do you think? Legacy-defining diplomacy, or a trillion-dollar episode of Trump Apprentice Middle East Edition? Let us know in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next time a world leader trades foreign policy for real estate. Because in this saga, the next episode is always bigger.